Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. A recently discovered ransomware group has netted almost $4 million since August by adopting a big game hunting strategy. Qualcomm's patent lawsuit against Apple has been dismissed as groundless by a court in Mannheim, Germany. YouTube clips that depict dangerous or emotionally distressing pranks have been banned from the platform, and Nike has launched self-lacing trainers which fit themselves to the shape of the foot and are controlled via a smartphone. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
Jeff Weston.
Yeah, man.
You're building a brand new, beautiful website.
What?
Aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? Just because Jeff is confused doesn't mean you have to be. Visit cat5.tv/Dreamhost to sign up for unlimited web hosting for your website with unlimited email accounts, MySQL databases, the latest version of PHP, WordPress, and more, and even a free domain name registration. It's less than $6 per month, so sign up today. cat5.tv/Dreamhost.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. A recently discovered ransomware group has netted almost $4 million since August by adopting a big game hunting strategy. The newfound ransomware selectively installs the malicious encryption software on previously infected targets with deep pockets. The method differs from the usual one of indiscriminately infecting all possible victims. Two analyses were published Thursday, one by security firm CrowdStrike and the other by competitor FireEye. Both reports say that Ryuk, as the ransomware is known, infects large enterprises days, weeks, or as much as a year after they were initially infected by separate malware, which in most cases is an increasingly powerful Trojan known as TrickBot. Similar organizations infected by TrickBot, by contrast, don't suffer the follow-on attack by Ryuk. CrowdStrike called the approach big game hunting and said it allowed its operators to generate $3.7 million worth of Bitcoin across 52 transactions since August. Besides pinpointing targets, which the resources to pay hefty ransoms, the method has another key benefit: the dwell time. That is, the period between the initial infection and the installation of the ransomware. It gives the attackers time to perform valuable reconnaissance inside the infected network. The reconnaissance lets attackers maximize the damage it causes by unleashing the ransomware only after it has identified the most critical systems of the network and obtained the passwords necessary to infect them. While uncommon, the reconnaissance isn't unique to Ryuk. SamSam, an unrelated ransomware that's caused millions of dollars of damage, infecting networks belonging to the city of Atlanta, Baltimore's 911 system, and Boeing, just to name a few, follows a similar path. There's no doubt, however, the technique is effective. According to the federal prosecutors, SamSam operators recovered more than $6 million in ransom payments and caused more than $30 million in damage. Thursday's reports leave little doubt that this approach is likely to grow more common. The FireEye researchers wrote, throughout 2018, FireEye observed an increasing number of cases where ransomware was deployed after the attackers gained access to the victim organization through other methods, allowing them to traverse the network to identify critical systems and inflict maximum damage.
Wow. I think what the news story doesn't touch on, and maybe media in general isn't aware of this, but sometimes these types of attacks are multi-tiered. So an attacker may compromise a network, and then they do the reconnaissance.
Right.
And then they sell that network to the actual attacking party.
Oh.
So social engineering tactics are used in order to gain access to a corporate network, and then that network is assessed by that attacker. And that attacker figures, okay, well, they have 300 computers. They are probably a government organization. Maybe they even know who they are. And that increases the value for them to resell it. And the story
Right.
doesn't even touch on it.
Right.
But it's quite likely that the whole reconnaissance thing is another attacker altogether. And then the value that they put on that network is what causes them to be the ones who are susceptible. Because, you know what, I'm not going to pay big dollars for the small networks.
Right.
So the small networks are generally safe. Are they safe? No. They still have
but they're
that
just
malware.
not targets.
They're not interesting to those who are actually paying for the information to be able to gain access to those networks.
Right. Like my work is not going to be targeted, probably.
You're a small business with, you don't
It's-
have electronic transactions that are,
But
yeah.
the thing is, would you know in the first place? Are they smart enough just not to tell you in the first place that you've been infected? Right? So they infect you or
An
like-
infection these days, though, I mean, think in terms of an infection is not necessarily a virus or
Right.
even a piece of malware. An infection, and let's use a better term, because again, media is using the terms like infection. No,
Right.
infiltration would
Okay.
probably be a better term these days.
So if you're not aware that it's happened to begin with, then the reconnaissance can happen. But if you know, like I guess there probably isn't something like a shining beacon that's like me.
Oh, by the way, somebody's like, yeah.
Excuse me, sir. But what can you do, like from this point, if you have had an infiltration? Do you just like throw everything out and start new? How do you even know where to start now? Because now
you-
they have your passwords and they have
Sure.
your right. So, is it too late for these big game companies in the hunting sort of scenario?
For them,
Yeah. Because there's
it'd be hard to recover. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get your data back. You've got backups, sure, but those private things are still unveiled.
Right.
I mean, we've talked about data leaks and everything else. And it's like, so it's multi-tiered, it's multifaceted, these types of attacks. And are those companies, I think it's naive to think that it's just ransomware. No, ransomware is kind of the end game.
Right.
No, what led up to the ransomware? Reconnaissance. Reconnaissance means collection of the data.
Right.
Reading through confidential data and determining a value on that data and then selling that to the next highest bidder.
Right.
That's why
It's
those companies get attacked.
scary. Are there good guys as strong as the bad guys in this?
Batman.
Right.
There are anti-malware companies that are trying to thwart these types of attacks, but those anti-malware companies know as well as I do that it comes down to education. It comes down
Right.
to people, end users knowing. I mean, I sell anti-malware all the time, but I still hear, I just need antivirus. No, I don't want the firewall.
But you do. You do.
Yeah. Yeah, because these days, I mean, I go through it day in, day out. It's not viruses anymore. When I was growing up, we had to deal with viruses. As I said, it's not infections anymore. It's infiltration.
Right.
And does an antivirus protect you against infiltration?
No.
Not at all. Does a firewall protect you against infiltration? It is definitely a good point of defense. That's for
Right.
sure. And not just the firewall that comes with Windows, but a bidirectional firewall that will stop the spread of things like ransomware.
Right.
That's key.
Because, I mean, you need to know, if you say you have 300 computers in your system, you have 300 people, let's say, or maybe even 600 if you're running 2 shifts, people running those computers,
Yeah.
we'll say.
Who clicks on what?
Right, exactly. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. I need a computer that's smarter than me, right? That won't let me do something. Like if I have the habit of, if something seems boggy, I just keep pressing OK.
Right, but here's another example along that vein.
Right.
You get a firewall installed, because
Yeah.
we're talking about a firewall and how
Exactly.
that can protect you against these kinds of attacks. And that firewall blocks you from being able to do something you want to do. Do you turn off the firewall? That's the question. And so if the users have that capability to be allowed to turn off their firewall, they will do it. And I encountered this today. Last night, Windows 10 updated itself on the Wirecast broadcast system.
Okay.
So now my Nagios server, my NEM server, is going crazy saying I can't access that system because when it updated, it blocked ping in the firewall. So my Nagios server started saying, I can't ping that server's down. So I'm getting notifications and wondering, well, the server's up and it's working, so why am I getting notifications? And of course, that first instinct is turn off the firewall and see if it works. Sure enough, it works. Okay, we'll turn back on the firewall and then find out what's going on. Okay, well, my Nagios server is pinging, and the pings are being rejected by the firewall, so I need to disable I need to allow pings to get through.
Right.
Because that's something that I personally want.
But
so an IT administrator has to be responsible for that.
Exactly.
So that users don't turn it off.
Right. So every company just really needs to have a Robbie.
Not a Robbie, but education for the staff.
A Robbie.
Learn from things that you hear here, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, just there's lots of great research online, but you definitely have to be privy to that kind of stuff.
You have to be fearful because fear, I think, makes you behave. You can't just be recklessly disabling, firewalls and making weak passwords and doing all the weird things that people do.
Solbu is in our chat room and says updates should not be allowed to change firewall settings. And I agree. I was shocked that Windows Firewall changed its own settings on a Windows machine. And I'm behind a NAT firewall and I have good firewalls here at the studio. But that software suddenly took over.
Yeah, no. Oh, it's creepy.
Yeah.
Well,
you got to be smart about this kind of stuff. And as an IT administrator, we need to make sure that our users don't have the capability, permissions-wise, to disable the very things that are protecting our networks.
Right.
Because 10%, can you guys believe this? 10% of people in an office environment will open the attachments on phishing scam emails. And that number is going to increase as we see a rise in spear phishing attacks,
right,
which are targeted, which will say, hi, Sasha, I need you to open this file and print it for me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Looks like it's coming from the boss.
Yeah.
Spear phishing is very convincing.
Right, depending on who it looked like it came from.
Yeah.
Like, if it looked like it came from you.
If you got an email from me that said, here's a file I need you to print for me, you may not even think about it.
I wouldn't know to be suspicious until afterwards and then think,
how come that encrypted all my files?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How come I can't click anything anymore?
Exactly.
Qualcomm's patent lawsuit against Apple has been dismissed as groundless by a court in Mannheim, Germany. The chipmaker had argued Intel-powered iPhones infringed a transistor switch patent it holds, but in an initial verbal decision, the court disagreed. Qualcomm has said it will appeal. In a statement, Don Rosenberg, Qualcomm's executive VP and general counsel, said Apple has a history of infringing our patents. Only last month, the Munich Regional Court affirmed the value of another of Qualcomm's cutting-edge patents against Apple's infringement and ordered a ban on the import and sale of impacted iPhones in Germany. That decision followed a court-ordered ban on patent-infringing iPhones in China, as well as recognition by an ITC judge that Apple is infringing on Qualcomm's IP. The Mannheim court interpreted one aspect of our patent very, very narrowly, saying that because a voltage inside a part of an iPhone wasn't constant, the patent wasn't infringed. We strongly disagree and will appeal. Apple responded saying, "We are happy with the decision and thank the court for their time and diligence. We regret Qualcomm's use of the court to divert attention from their illegal behavior that is the subject of multiple lawsuits and proceedings around the world." The pair have been embroiled in an increasingly bitter and global legal battle in recent years as Apple has shifted away from using Qualcomm chips in its devices. This sounds just a little bit complicated. Like this,
Yeah.
It just sounds...
We said it last week. We're not privy on patent law.
Right. So I think they were expecting this in the situation in the first place. Isn't that why the German court needs you to have the money to back if you lose? I don't I'm not quite certain on the situation.
Had it gone on further, had it
Yeah.
gone for a month, and Apple lost a lot of sales because they were not allowed to sell in Germany, for
Right.
example, then the money that Qualcomm had put up front would have offset that.
Right.
But in this case, it's like, I don't even want to touch on patent law. I mean,
I don't
who
get
knows?
it. I feel like if you wrote a book that like the bat in the hat, like this is what it seems like to me, right? Like
Infringement. I do feel like hearing statements from both companies.
yes.
Apple is a child. It really, to me,
Yeah, they just seem
they're constantly dropping, oh, well, Qualcomm is
yeah.
bad. And I don't like any company that does that.
Right. I know. If I
Like,
were
let
to
the
be
let the law decide.
Exactly.
Don't try to sway people's opinions by putting into your responses negative connotations toward the person who, like, it's just it's about mindset, and I just don't like that because they're trying to sway the populace into believing their side of the story,
Yeah.
which is not cool.
Which, I mean, good luck to them because people are smarter than that, Apple, I'll tell you.
Well, I think so, but there's a lot of people who buy every Apple iPhone.
Right. But I feel like that could be dwindling, right?
It is dwindling.
Like Qualcomm's technologies that come out are mind-blowing and super advanced and like the cutting edge of things, right? Like I'm more interested in all of the things that Qualcomm has coming down the line than I am in anything that Apple might
Even
be.
NVIDIA.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is mind-blowing right now, but
Right.
yeah.
Huh.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Consumers, let's see if they wise up and stop buying Apple products. We'll see.
Yep. YouTube clips that depict dangerous or emotionally distressing pranks have been banned from the platform. The move comes in response to so-called challenges that have sometimes resulted in death or injury. The Google-owned video sharing site said such material had no place on YouTube. However, the firm appears to be failing to enforce its existing rules on harmful content. Some of the videos have attracted many millions of views. YouTube said it worked to aggressively enforce our monetization policies to eliminate the incentive for this abuse. But enforcing its new rules on pranks may prove even more difficult given ambiguity over what may or may not be considered harmful. A message added to the site's frequently asked questions section reads, YouTube is home to many beloved viral challenges and pranks. That said, we've always had policies to make sure what's funny doesn't cross the line into also being harmful or dangerous. Our community guidelines prohibit content that encourages dangerous activities that are likely to result in serious harm, and today clarifying what this means for dangerous challenges and pranks. From now on, the site said it would not allow videos that featured pranks with a perceived danger of serious physical injury. This includes pranks where someone is tricked into thinking that they're in severe danger even if no real threat existed. The new rules come in response to several instances of pranks and stunts that are seriously ill-advised at best and deadly at worst.
I hope that they can pull it off.
I do too. And you know what? The thing is, I have so much hope in common sense and humanity. I am a cheerleader for making the right decisions. But I will tell you that I hear these crazy challenges. And I mean, you can watch a Netflix show, a movie,
Yeah.
and then
It can't be just YouTube. It's got to be other platforms as well.
and then get this idea in your head, right? And then all of a sudden you've started this cycle, and there are copycats out there.
Sure.
And what you're doing, I mean, let's just say that the original person who had the thought of, let's say it's parkour, or let's say it's planking, or let's say it's something, right, where somebody has the physical ability to do it, does it and pulls it off, and people watch that video, and then they're like, I can also climb a crane.
But it's
Then
always,
they're in
I have
trouble.
to step it up one
Yeah.
notch higher
Right.
until finally it's deadly. And,
Right.
and that's really concerning. But the news is just as guilty.
Yeah.
Like the mainstream news, the stuff that we hear about on our day-to-day, and you talk about copycats, and it's just the world that we live in. So it has to be more than YouTube.
It is more
because
than
as
YouTube.
soon as YouTube locks down this kind of stuff, there's going to be another platform that rises up, and that's the go-to place for that kind of content.
I wish that people understood the value of their life. Like, don't do something so don't blindfold yourself and drive your car.
Yeah.
Don't eat a Tide Pod. Like, don't do these silly challenge things that are going to harm you or kill you, because you're an important person in the society, and I would like you to be alive and not just famous on YouTube for some crazy thing that got you hurt.
There's too many tragedies that we hear about.
I don't like it. So Nike has launched self-lacing trainers which fit themselves to the shape of the foot and are controlled via a smartphone. It's the latest iteration of the futuristic footwear, first referred to back in the film Back in the Future Part 2 and made reality by Nike in 2016. The latest version, called Nike Adapt, will cost $350 and will not require a physical button to activate the laces. Eric Avar, Nike's creative director of innovation, said, "We picked basketball as the first sport for Nike Adapt intentionally because of the demands that athletes put on their shoes. During a normal basketball game, the athlete's foot changes, and the ability to quickly change your fit by loosening your shoes to increase blood flow and then tightening again for performance is a key element that we believe will improve the athlete's experience." Users can customize the fit and control through a smartphone app which will store fit preferences. They can input different fit settings for different moments in the game, loosening it for a timeout and tightening before they re-enter the game. When they step into a shoe, a custom motor and gear will sense the tension needed by the foot and adjust accordingly. The app will also store the data, which athletes can choose to share with Nike. The shoe goes on sale in February.
Smart technology where I never expected it.
Right. I actually, I don't play basketball, as you might not have known.
I don't play basketball.
Right. But
Can you believe it?
I do run on a treadmill, and my shoelaces come untied all of the time.
So you think these would be the answer?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to buy basketball. Eventually, I'm going to buy these shoes when they come out in different forms.
Just self-lacing.
Right,
Just to be able to feel like I was in Back to the Future.
Right. I mean, I'm training to be a PSW. I'm sure that the elderly could very specifically use these shoes, right?
Or some iteration of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be this sophisticated.
Right. I mean, they don't have to be on their smartphone.
I don't need different programs for my sneakers, but hey, be able to lace them up without having to bend over, that's fantastic.
I need to have the independence that I no longer need to depend on somebody else to lace up my shoes, right?
Cool.
I like it.
Really quickly, according to CoinGecko, here's what the crypto market looked like as of 1800 hours Eastern Time on Wednesday, January 16th, 2019. Bitcoin dropped a little bit, lost $389.37 USD, taking it down to $3,588.87, our loss over the past week. Litecoin is down at $31.15 USD per Litecoin. Ethereum is at $121.97, also losing down $26.97 US. Monero is at $45.50, and the small guys, Stellite, is at 2.51 ten-thousandths of a cent, and Turtlecoin is at 1.38 ten-thousandths of a cent, not losing a lot, 0.02 ten-thousandths of a cent. Remember, the cryptocurrency market is always changing, never, ever closes, so be careful out there, folks. Be careful.
Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category 5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category 5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Rickman.
And I'm Robbie Ferguson.